The countdown clock is finishing. It's time to go live and talk about this Houston Texans team. What are the best and worst moves from this offseason? And let me tell you, I was scraping the bottom of the barrel to try to find the worst part of the moves. We'll go through those. We'll answer your questions and so much more. If you're watching this live, appreciate you tuning in live. Get live in the comments section. Super chats go to the front of the line. If you're watching this after the fact, appreciate you checking out the video. And, of course, the comment section still active, even if the video is not live, so get in there. Thanks for watching tonight, everybody. I'm Cody Stoots, cover the Houston Texans for here on YouTube and Houston Football, my website where you all my writing about the Houston Texans. Check it out in the link down below. Let's talk about the best and worst moves of this Texans offseason. And it was not easy to find the worst moves when you look at this offseason that the Texans have had. They have had one of the best offseasons in all of football. They've had one of the best off seasons in the history of this franchise. Now, obviously, no games have been played, and we may be looking back at this in a couple of years and be like, "Ugh, it wasn't as good as we thought it was." But it's pretty tough to be super critical of some of the moves the Texans have made in the way that they've operated here this offseason. They went out and drastically improved this defense. They added some key players on offense, and they sort of gave themselves some opportunities to improve at some other spots, perhaps if they can coach them up just the right way. So the best and the worst. I got three best, three worst for you, a little six-pack of best and worst for you. The best move this offseason so far is Danielle Hunter. I mean, is it even close to anybody else? I mean, Danielle Hunter was a day two of free agency acquisition by the Texans. They signed him. It's a massive contract, and he comes over to the Texans from the Vikings with one of the best resumes of anybody in free agency. Hunter is a perennial double-digit sack guy. He basically plays every game every year. The 1 year he wasn't healthy was basically one of the only years that he didn't get double-digit sacks. And it's not just that he's some pass rush extraordinaire that can only do that. He's not a one-trick pony. He was tied for the league lead in tackles for a loss with Max Crosby. And it's very rare to see a team go through the season the Texans did, set the franchise sack record, see three of those four starters along the defensive line move on, and feel better about where they are as a defensive line. I feel better about where they are as a defensive line today than when the season ended. If they had just brought back everything that they had along the defensive line. Sure, defensive tackle takes a little bit of a dip, but Danielle Hunter's top end is way higher than what Jonathan Grenard's top end is. This, by far and away, is the best move of the offseason. It's expensive, but really nice things are expensive. And Hunter, along with Will Anderson, are going to put together one of the best pass rushing duo seasons in all of the NFL. You'd be hard-pressed to find a bunch of guys as a duo better than those two, and Hunter is going to help set the tone for this defense. That's why he is the best move of the offseason so far. Let's go to one of the worst moves of the offseason. The Malik Collins trade. Still a trade that is not totally clear on exactly why the Texans did it. Oh, my speculation is that the Texans traded a starting defensive tackle for a seventh-round pick because they felt like they could save a little bit of money, about $3 million on the trade, and they were concerned about the long-term health of Malik Collins. Nobody's told me that. That's just my speculation because it doesn't seem like something that would be smart to just get rid of a starting defensive tackle that had played well for your team. Now, Collins had not been amazing by any means, but he'd been a solid player. And if Malik Collins is, say, the seventh best player on your front seven, it's a pretty darn good front seven. And that's what he was probably set to be, the sixth or seventh best player in the front seven if he'd stuck around. The Texans get only a seventh-round pick for him. I don't know that they could have gotten much more than a seventh-round pick, but it feels like they could have gotten at least something a tiny bit more. Not going to be super critical of this move because I do like the options they've given themselves at defensive tackle, and I believe there's a chance that they're going to end up with a defensive tackle room that's just fine. But we'll talk about the defensive tackles again a little bit more here in just a second. Another best move from this season, I mean, come on, Stefon Diggs, right? I mean, this one was easy. It's easy to pick the best ones out. It's harder to pick out the worst ones. Danielle Hunter, the first best one. The second best move, the Stefon Diggs edition. I know it's only one season, and I'm not in love with the contract shenanigans that they did, making it a one-year deal for Stefon Diggs. But giving this Texans team a 1-2-3 of Nico Collins, Stefon Diggs, and Tank Dell is such a great starting point for the offense and what they want to accomplish and what they can accomplish from that standpoint. And that's just the wide receivers. Not to mention Noah Brown is better cast as a fourth, fifth wide receiver, and that's what he is with the addition of Stefon Diggs. Dalton Schultz is back for this team. Joe Mixon is a guy that's capable of running the ball and catching the ball out of the backfield. It's a really good starting point for this offense, and Diggs takes them to a whole nother level. I mean, 1, 2, 3 at the wide receiver spots, I can't find a team that I feel significantly better than where the Texans are 1, 2, 3. Sure, you can find duos across the league where maybe you feel better about a duo. Doesn't matter which two Texans you pick. But as far as the 1, 2, 3, the Texans might have the best in the league after the Stefon Diggs edition. And it only cost a future second-round pick. Now, we maybe look back at the end of the season and be like, I kind of wish they had more of Stefon Diggs and it wasn't just 1 year for what might be a top 50 pick. But if Diggs plays really well, it's going to be absolutely worth that selection. And essentially, what the Diggs trade did is it helped the trade back out of the first round look a little bit better. The trade back out of the first round might have been one of my worst moves if they hadn't made the Stefon Diggs trade. Because ultimately, the way you can look at the move from 23 to 42 is the Texans moved from 23 to 42 and got Stefon Diggs. That's a pretty good trade. That's a pretty darn good trade. I love the Diggs edition. He's already working out with Texans players. He's putting in a lot of work on social media. He's doing the right things publicly and saying the right things with his actions that you would want out of a guy that people are a little questionable about his locker room fit with basically any team. I mean, I guess they'd have questions about his locker room fit with any team in the National Football League. Another worst move of the season. I like the defensive tackle options. I don't love them. I would have liked to have Sheldon Rankins back. And the Texans reportedly missed out on Sheldon Rankins by just $1 million on each of the 2 years that he ultimately got offered. I believe the report from Aaron Wilson was the Texans went up to $12 million a year. He got $13 million from the Cincinnati Bengals and ultimately chose to go to the Bengals. So again, this is another defensive tackle conversation. And once we found out the numbers here, I probably would have found the extra $2 million to go and get Sheldon Rankins and bring him back, because as the same thing I said applies to Malik Collins. If Malik Collins is your sixth or seventh best front seven player, then you got a really nice front seven. Same thing with Sheldon Rankins. If Sheldon Rankins is your sixth or seventh best front seven player, you've got an awesome front seven. And I do wonder if we look back at the salary cap space now that the Texans have after the Diggs adjustment, if you could have found those $2 million for Sheldon Rankins and had him in the defensive tackle room with this team. Again, not super upset with defensive tackle, but for just $2 million on Sheldon Rankins, just a seventh round pick for the Malik Collins trade, those both fall into the worst category. Now, finding my third best move of the offseason for the Texans was tough. I like the Denico Autry addition. I like some of the other things that they've done this offseason, but this addition to me is one that we haven't spent as much time on, and I'm as guilty as anybody, but could be one of the most impactful parts of the equation, and that's the Aziz Al-Shaair addition. Aziz Al-Shaair is a heat-seeking missile at the linebacker spot. He is just a tackling monster. He played fantastic for the 49ers before he hit free agency. The Texans chased him a year ago, didn't get him. He went to the Tennessee Titans, played really well for them. I think was fifth in the league in tackles, and shows up to the Texans. The Texans clearly believe in him, investing over $11 million a year in Al-Shaair. He's one of the best moves. If you liked what Blake Cashman brought to the table, this guy's super Blake Cashman. He can cover, he can tackle, he can fill the hole, he can beat guys to the edge. It is a fantastic addition that in the landscape of free agency is going under the radar. Well, we're trying to bring it up on the radar here, making it one of the best moves of the Texans offseason. Lastly, here in the best and worst, and then we'll get to your comments, questions, joys, and concerns, is the risky cornerback situation. I would have liked a little bit more certainty at cornerback. And I understand some of the stuff got expensive. I mean, free agents who were proven commodities at cornerback were very expensive this offseason. Guys that even had injury concerns heading into free agency ended up getting $9-10 million a year. The Texans decided to go with potential over peace of mind. And that's what they have with Jeff Okudah and CJ Henderson. It's two guys with some potential to them if the Texans coaching staff can draw it out of those two players. But even then, the whole cornerback room as a whole is a little bit of a weird situation. Derek Stingley, for the past 4 seasons of football, 2 in college, 2 in the NFL, has had injuries drastically affect his career. Jeff Okudah, who's cornerback 2, has had injuries drastically affect his career. CJ Henderson, injuries, has not played well up to this point. Desmond King, probably primarily your slot guy, but can play outside a little bit. I mean, if he's the best backup, it's nice to have him, but then who plays the slot after him? There's just a little bit of risk to this cornerback room. Now, obviously, if the Texans coaching staff takes it, molds it, and turns it into a real nice room, we're not going to be worried about it in the middle of the season. But Derek Stingley down for a couple of weeks, and maybe Jeff Okudah and CJ Henderson are your starting corners with Desmond King on the inside. It's a little scary. I'd probably want to see a rookie added here just to give a little bit more depth and options to the coaching staff come training camp time. But that's where I find myself in the worst moves. Again, it was hard to find some of the worst moves. Because the best moves in this free agency, in this offseason, there were some pretty darn good best moves. And the Texans, with one of the best off seasons in all of football, checked in here with some best and worst from the offseason. Let's get to your comments, joys, and concerns. Super chats go to the front of the line. So Young Costa, first round at draft party is on Stoots. I don't know about all that, but we're happy for you to join us at the draft party. Thanks for bringing it up, Young Costa. Here's some of the information. April 27th, Daily Sports Club, 922 Holman Streets in Midtown, I think is the official designation. Midtown, downtown-ish. 922 Holman Street. There's a giant parking garage attached to it, so you got parking there. You can find some street parking as well. Going to have some fantastic drink specials for you. The food there is awesome. But the draft party is April 27th. That's the Saturday. So that's rounds 4, 5, 6, and 7. And the Texans have 2 4th-round picks. The Texans have 2 6th-round picks and 2 7th-round picks. Now, they might not make all those selections, but we want to see you at the draft party. Get to the draft party. It's going to be a blast. And you never know what kind of fun stuff's going to pop up there, the kind of giveaways and all that kind of stuff. Myself, Landry Locker, Figgy Fig, and you never know what else is going to pop up. Young Costa, appreciate the super chat. Thank you. Jake, I appreciate the super chat. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Of course, if you have a comment, a question, the super chat can jump you to the front of the line as well. Let's get to some of your comments here. Appreciate you sticking through with the soliloquy to start. Is that what we're starting with? Soliloquy? So we'll go with it. Rick says, Hunter is a friggin' animal. J-Rock says, worst move was not re-signing Bill Burr. I mean, Tommy Townsend's a pretty good punter, but yeah, Cam Johnston, he went to the Steelers. The Texans ended up with Tommy Townsend, who does not look like a famous comedian. The worst move is signing Okudah, and that's a high-risk, high-reward move. Hopefully they get cornerback in the draft. Yeah, I mean, it's a risky cornerback room. So the room is risky. But if this coaching staff coaches the heck out of them and gets a lot out of them, then it's going to be still risky, but it's going to be easier to watch each and every Sunday. El Mario, what it do, Cody? Hey, good to see you, El Mario. Good to see you. John Ryan finding out that Cam Johnston does look like Bill Burr. Oh, man. El Mario says Noah Brown's a sleeper, top top wide receiver if healthy. Look, Noah Brown played really well a couple different times, and I just wonder if him sprinkled in better uses his talents and allows for the durability to get stretched out over the course of the season. Johnny Lambo says, I'm starting to get a little worried about how awesome this offseason has been, hoping we don't see a sophomore slump. Johnny, what are we doing here? Where is this coming from? Where's this negativity? In the middle of this offseason, we get this? Come on, Johnny. Come on. BG says, I can't wait for the dream season to start. Let's freaking go. Damon says, what's up, Cody? Great breakdown. Appreciate you. Rick's projecting a 17-4 record. I mean, how are they getting to the 4 losses? You know what I mean? You know what I mean? I must Pandaline. Agent Zero. Yes, that is going to be the number that that Aziz Al-Shaair wears. He's going to wear number 0. That was announced a little while ago. Let's see here. Let's pull this up. From the Texans Twitter account today. Aziz Al-Shaair, Agent Zero. I like the photo edit here. Yeah, he's going to be flying around. 0 as a linebacker number is a great number. He's one of the most underrated additions of any team in the offseason. One of the most underrated additions of any team in the offseason. Young Costa says, still hoping for a Pierce bounce back season. It'd be nice. It'd be nice. But if you don't get it, you need to have a plan B. You need to have a different running back situation set up behind him. Jake says, can we get Sketch on here? I may not be big enough to get Sketch on here, but if Sketch will get on here and talk some Texans, what's up, brother? I'll see what I can do. I'll reach out. I mean, what's the worst he could say? I'm too busy. No thanks. Let's see. We'll work on getting Sketch on here. Talk a little Texans. Cody, you hoping for a wide receiver or a cornerback at 42? I lean a little bit more towards wide receiver just because I believe there's going to be a more worthwhile wide receiver there than cornerback. Now, if a guy like, say, Enos Rakestraw Jr. from Missouri is available, then I feel like he's a really fun fit for this team. He's a tough, physical, hard-nosed guy, good play diagnosis. So he fits if he's, slips to the Texans at 42. But I like the potential available wide receivers a whole heck of a lot more than I like the cornerbacks that potentially could be available at 42. I don't think Swarm is going to be a thing going into this season. I think they're going to do away with it. Oh, you mean I think the Swarm's here to stay. I don't know about that. I think the Swarm's here to stay. Adrian says, Cody, I think Garindo, the Louisville running back, visited recently. I'd love to have him on this roster. Pure speed, man. I mean, I don't know if it always matches the workout speed on tape. I mean, that's been one of the criticisms of the draft community is it hasn't matched the workout speed when you watch him at Louisville, but he's an intriguing prospect for sure. For sure. Brandon says Townsend's going to show his teammates what a Super Bowl ring looks like till they win one. Yeah, Tommy Townsend, multi-time Super Bowl champion with the Kansas City Chiefs before he ends up here with the Houston Texans. Patty asks, what do you think about drafting a running back like the beast, the combine sort of 99 athlete, Isaac Garindo? Yeah, so he seems to be a favorite of everybody. The workouts have been fantastic. And as far as the running back position as a whole, 4th round, wouldn't prioritize it, wouldn't go make it a big priority in the draft. I wouldn't trade up for one, but what's there and available in the 4th round, and certainly if the running backs start to slip and you want to use one of those 6th rounders on one, yeah, absolutely. I would tell you if you don't get one in the 4th round, then adding a veteran with Joe Mixon would probably be the way to go. Adding like somebody who's out there. I don't even know who's out there right now. Let's take a look at who's still available in running back free agency land. I don't even know who's still available. Got so excited about all the guys that were. Yeah, it's pretty ugly for what's out there. I mean, J.K. Dobbins, Jerick McKinnon, Latavius Murray. Yeah, I take it back. I wouldn't put it on my must, but I wouldn't ignore running back if I was the Texans in this draft. There's just not a lot of free agency options, and you want somebody behind Mixon in case Dameon Pierce doesn't bounce back. If he bounces back, then your worry about the running back spot goes exponentially down. But yeah, a running back would be a nice addition. Haven't seen the Texans talked about this much in a while. Yeah, they've done a lot of really good stuff, so they deserve the attention. Chris says, I'm fairly confident the worst talent addition is Lonnie Johnson. Look, they're not bringing him in to start at corner. You know, he's here to be a special teams guy, and he did that really well. I guess, with the Saints. So, special teams ace type of guy. What's the third helmet color going to be? Lips are sealed. About less than 2 weeks away from that being revealed. Less than 2 weeks away from the New Jersey showing up. Will you be on with Landry later? Don't have the plans to be on with Landry later, but you never know if the invite's going to get thrown my way. Yeah, it seems like Landry's got that 10:30 start going for you each and every night, so check it out. Let's see. Developing a major rivalry against the excited Titans. Yeah, he's got a big crew coming on tonight. He's got the Titans guys coming on tonight to talk, so check him out at 10:30. That'll be a fun one. Jalen Wright would be amazing in the fourth. Jalen Wright is, in many people's eyes, the best running back in this draft class, comes from Tennessee. If he's there in the fourth round, something's wrong in the evaluation process that we as the public don't know. I would think Wright is a second or third round guy, late second, early third guy. Maybe the first running back off the board, but if he's there in the fourth, swing big. That'd be awesome. Ray Davis at Kentucky, Patty asked for. Yeah, Texans didn't meet with him when I asked him about it at the Combine, but I do wonder about with Davis if he's gotten too many carries at the college level. I mean, the Texans added a guy like Dameon Pierce, I believe, in large part because he didn't have a lot of carries. Davis with a lot of carries at the college level. He maybe doesn't fit. I mean, he's a thumper, though. He's a tough dude. Cody, regarding my request for Astros content, never mind on that. Not a good run here for the Stros right yet to start this season. Would you like Dalvin Cook on a cheap deal? No. He's more washed than your favorite sweatshirt. Cody, do you see them trading for a higher pick than 42? Not really. It's hard to figure out what the cost of moving up would be and where you'd move up and what you would move up for. If the right player, like if you wanted to go to 35 for Kool-Aid McKinstry, the cornerback from Alabama, okay, what does that cost you? Does that cost you one of your fourth rounders and one of your sixth rounders? Like, is that enough to get a team to move back, 7 spots? It probably is. Is that guy that much better than waiting for a different cornerback? I don't know. I don't see them moving up, but I wouldn't put it past Nick Caserio. Let me see if I can pull up the stats here. Drew Doherty over on the Texans talked about this earlier today on Twitter. Let's pull this up here. So the Texans during the draft, they made 8 trades last year, 7 the year before, and 3 trades in 2021. They got 9 picks in the 2024 draft. They'll be moving around. By the way, Drew's a great follow. If you don't follow Drew, you should follow Drew. They'll be moving around on draft day. I just don't know if it's up from 42 because I can't quite see the vision on what the player is and who you would move up for. John Ryan says, I'll be there at the draft party, beers and cheers. Boy, I'm gutting out a cold, and it is kicking my tail. I'm doing the best I can. Johnny says, Clyde Edwards-Helaire or J.K. Dobbins would be nice at running back, but I'm not as worried there as I am at safety. Interesting. I'm not super worried about safety. And one of the main reasons, it's going to sound weird when I say this, one of the main reasons I'm not worried about safety is Eric Murray. Jalen Petrie and Jimmy Ward have got to stay healthy, and they've got to play better than they did last year. That's just the fact of the matter. But Eric Murray, they used him a lot in 3 safety sets, in matching up. He allows them to do some things on defense that MJ Stewart and DeAndre Houston Carson, some of these other safeties didn't. And as D'Amico Ryans talked about a couple times here in this offseason, they were down to a lot of backups at the safety spot by the back end of the season. And it really limited what they could do on the back end from a defensive standpoint, and probably hurt them overall as a defense because you just didn't have as much talent that you could rely on that back end. But, Petrie's got to play better. Ward's got to stay healthy. Eric Murray's got to stay healthy. And if that's the case, they should be okay at safety. They could get better. Justin Simmons would be nice. They could get better. Dom from Jersey weighing in. Stoots, do you think this is the year that will finally pack the stadium every Sunday? Do the fans finally trust the Texans again? If you're not on, what are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? But to be literal with your question, no, because there's going to be some Mondays and some Thursdays mixed in there as well. But yeah, this should be the most well-attended Texans season since the sellout streak ended. And I know I had a friend who purchased season tickets recently. Season tickets that were available to them were only in the 600s. So you're getting very close to having season ticket allotments, sold out in the key spots. And then once those get sold out and then people are picking up 600 tickets for their season tickets, it gets pretty close to having a good, consistent crowd there every week. The opponents will help. Early season success will help as well. But could you see a Browns-esque crowd in the regular season at some point this year? Absolutely, you could. Absolutely, you could. No question in my mind. You could see a Browns-esque crowd. The playoff Browns game, not the one where they got smoked. Could you see that in the regular season at some point this year? Yes, you could. Yes, you could. Absolutely. Dom, I appreciate the super chat, man. You are too kind. You are too kind. You should fly down for the draft party. I know that sounds ridiculous, but maybe, All right. Let's fire up some more questions here. Oh, another one from Dom. Happy with Mixon, but feel we still could have went the extra mile for Saquon. He even said afterwards he wanted the Texans. Yeah, look, Saquon would make me feel a lot better than Joe Mixon. But Mixon was a nice pivot after a lot of the running backs were off the board. The helmets will be red, white, and steel blue. No. That's all I'll say. I'm not going to say anymore. No one can get in trouble. I agree, Cody. Aziz and Autry and Khalil Davis for second-year pickup on defense. Big-time sleepers. I am intrigued to see if Khalil Davis could carve out more of a role for himself than he had last year. He showed up after the year got started and really played really well and had some success for this team. They brought him back. If he could carve out a nice role for himself, and then you get Autry sneaking in there, defensive tackle, defensive end from time to time, and there's the makings of some really fun defensive setups for this Texans team. Scott says Jonathan Brooks may slip because of his injury. Would be good to maybe get him at 59, limit carries next season, more of a focus for next season. I don't love Brooks. I want a guy that can help right away. I don't believe he's going to be able to help to the fullest right away. I know he keeps saying he's going to be ready July 1st. The fact that you start training camp earlier means that he maybe won't be ready for training camp because you're playing in the Hall of Fame game. I'm just not in love with Brooks. I like some of these other guys a little bit better. Just a little bit better. David White says, Stoots, love the writing on Houston football. Keep up the great work. Yeah, coming up for Houston football in the morning. It'll be in your inbox tomorrow morning is my official draft crush list. It'll be 2 weeks out from the draft, my official draft crush list, the players that I have a draft crush on, and do they fit for the Houston Texans? Hint, hint, most of them do. But yeah, so my official draft crush will be on Houston football tomorrow morning. If you sign up, you will get all of it right here in your inbox when it shows up tomorrow morning. And that's going to be one of those that the full list is going to be for paid subscribers, but free subscribers will get a good amount. We'll get a good amount on that. Kenneth Coleman says, I'd love to get Brooks out of Texas. He's just kind of player Nick goes after. Yeah, look, they were comfortable with John Mechie or maybe Williams from Alabama. Like, they were comfortable with those guys having sort of an affected rookie year because of the injury. So maybe they're more comfortable with Brooks than I am. Maybe they're more comfortable with Brooks than I am. Rock WP says, what position do you see Nick moving up? Well, let's see here. He's moved up for Nico Collins, Tank Dell, Juice Scruggs, John Mechie, and Christian Harris on day 2. So 3 wide receivers. So I would think if a wide receiver that he really likes starts to slip, maybe he makes the move, from the late second to the middle, or maybe even from the third to the beginning of the third, or third to the late second. So, I mean, he's done it for wide receiver 3 times. So maybe he'd do it for another wide receiver. Cody, do you think there's any value out there for Mills? Not yet. If it gets to training camp time and he's still on this team and somebody's starter goes down, maybe, but I don't think if there was value to Davis Mills and they felt comfortable getting rid of Davis Mills, I think he'd be on another team. But right now, it doesn't seem like there's value. I'd go best player available for 42 and DT for the next second round pick. Also have bad head and cold congestion. I'm blaming the eclipse on that one. Yeah, maybe the blotting out the sun for a few minutes probably doesn't do any wonders for anything or anybody. BPA and then DT. If you ended up with, say, a wide receiver and then Braden Fisk, or a wide receiver and Chris Jenkins, or maybe a corner and Chris Jenkins or Braden Fisk, that'd be a pretty good, 1-2 punch there for that second round. That'd be real good. That'd be real good. Do you see Petrie taking a step forward this year? He got smoked last year. If he doesn't take a step forward from last year, he's going to be off the team next year. So this is a very much a make or break year for Jalen Petrie. He's got to play much better than he did last year, or he's going to be a player that is off the team. There's no reason to keep him around if he doesn't bounce back from last year. Great platform and job, Cody. Thank you, David. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thinking about it, don't threaten me with a good time, Dom. Any Houston hats left? I need one. I think what you mean is the Houston football hats. I am all out of Houston football hats. But stay tuned and maybe attend the draft party because may have a little something in store for the people come draft party time. So stay tuned. How would a Justin Simmons contract even work? He probably doesn't want the minimum. Well, you don't have to pay him the minimum. Pay him whatever the heck he wants. I mean, maybe not whatever the heck he wants, but get reasonable with the contract and the investment, because think about what Simmons does. First of all, he gives DeMeco Ryans a chess piece to play with on defense. He moves Petrie or Ward to a backup position, which improves the depth of the safety spot. And he's just a really intriguing player to me. He's only a free agent because of the money commitment. Now, maybe the money commitment is still really high. And if that's the case, then maybe that's going to come down for him. It's got to come down for him. So it's interesting to me that he's not on a team yet. I like Simmons a lot. I feel like he's a really good player. He's one of the best players on the Broncos the past few seasons. So is Charlie Heck still on the roster? He is. He is. And if they had to play a game today, he'd be the backup left and right tackle. Our division is the only one with 2 players that have scored 5 TDs in a game in Jonathan Taylor and Joe Mixon. I'd probably played against Joe Mixon in fantasy that week too. I've got terrible luck against Joe Mixon. Uniform insider knowledge. At some point, the Texans will wear pink this year. I mean, don't they do something like that in October? Don't they mix in a little pink there in October? When are you and Jake Asman going to do another joint video or live? You put joint in exclamation point because you want us to partake in marijuana? I don't know. Jake's in New York now. He's got a lot of Jets stuff. Maybe Jets week. We'll do some Jets week stuff. A little crossover there. You never know. I might try to get the wheelhouse together one day. Be a fun off-season video, wouldn't it? Me, Jake, myself, BK, Brad Kellner. Be a fun little one. Yeah, look, we put it up. 8 trades last year, 7 the year before. The dude loves to move around. Jeremy says, I know you can't say anything about what the uniforms look like per se, but can you rate them based off of what you know about them? The uniform that has been publicly confirmed is probably my 4th favorite of the 4. That's all I'll say about that. Johnny says, hey, Stingley was injured before the draft as well. Caserio took a swing at him. Makes me nervous. I wouldn't mind Jay Brooks from Texas. Yeah, Stingley had offseason concerns, bouncing back from his injury. Kenyon Green had offseason concerns bouncing back from his injury. Obviously, John Mechie as well. So Caserio's not afraid of offseason, injuries or guys bouncing back. Is a young backup quarterback in our future? Unlikely. I went through this on a video a little bit earlier in the week. I'd say unlikely, but it's not the worst idea. Jatavian Sanders and Fisk is my guess. Fisk, the defensive tackle from Florida State. Jatavian Sanders, the tight end from Texas. I watched a Jatavian Sanders blocking montage, and I almost threw up. He's one of the most pathetic blockers I've ever seen. Now, he's dynamic when the ball gets thrown to him and the ball gets in his hands, but he's awful at blocking. And I wonder if that's just something that kind of keeps him totally off the radar for the Texans. Wes Sharp, any chance at Darius Robinson, the defensive end / defensive tackle at Missouri? Darius Robinson is, to me, he is like one of the perfect DeMeco Ryans defensive linemen. He's got a little defensive end to him. He's got a little defensive tackle to him. He's athletic. He's a big player. He's got like Eric Armstead-esque abilities to him. And obviously, DeMeco Ryans coached Armstead, and the Texans tried to get Armstead this offseason. I love Darius Robinson. I feel like he's a really fun player. He'll be on the draft crush list. I don't know where he's going to go. I don't know if he's a late first rounder. I don't know if he's a drop into the second round type guy. He says all the right things. He was one of the best interviews at the combine. And I got to imagine he interviewed pretty well with teams. So I like Darius Robinson a lot. Just got here. Are we trading Mechie? I wouldn't. I would give him every opportunity to be the 5th wide receiver, the 6th wide receiver for this team. I wouldn't trade him. I don't know if he has any value either. What has he done in the NFL to showcase that he's got any sort of value? You know? Just got here. What did I miss? Everything. Everything. You missed it all. David says, what's up, Stootsy, all the way from Vancouver, Washington. That's got to be like way up there near Canada, no? That's got to be like way up there. So how does safety not concern you if wide receiver concerns you because Diggs is on a one-year deal, Nico no extension yet, Ward on his final year, Petrie playing for a stay on the team? I mean, from a long-range perspective, yeah, I'm worried about safety. I'm not as worried about 2024 at safety. I mean, if they want to keep Jimmy Ward, they can extend him. If Petrie plays well, he's got another year on his contract. You know, if they want to keep Eric Murray, they can. I would like for them to draft a safety. Cole Bishop's my favorite. Tyler Nubin from Minnesota, another one of my favorites. I would like for them to draft a safety and put some long-term safety on the books, certainly. Yeah, no, you're right. If I'm worried about when wide receivers' contracts expire, I need to be worried about when safeties' contracts expire. Bryce says, hey, Mr. Shoots, close enough. Long-time listener, first-time commenter, just wanted to let you know how great your channel is, always making a daily listen. I appreciate you. I appreciate you, Bryce. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you, everybody, for watching, listening, commenting, super chatting, subscribing to Houston Football. You know, it makes this job so much fun, and we have a lot of fun here on the channel because of all your great support. Andrew asked Kareem Jackson. I think he sign? He visited with somebody, but they're not bringing Kareem Jackson back. They're not bringing Kareem Jackson back. He visited with somebody a couple weeks ago or recently. Mr. Bo on the top is in here. Just started watching the video. Steve says Johnny Newton falls to 42 draft night. Johnny Newton at 42 would be awesome. Johnny Newton is the defensive tackle from Illinois, and at 42, he'd be a steal of the draft. Andrew asks, Devondre still on the radar after his arrest? Yes, but he's lower on the radar. So I can't use 42. I really can't use 59 on him. So I'd third round, I'd probably take a swing. Any updates on Kenyon Green? I mean, you won't get anything until probably OTAs, but he's had a long time to get back from the injury. So the excuses, there's no excuses. Who's your guy at 42 you would not pass on? Kool-Aid McKinstry, Johnny Newton, Darius Robinson. I probably would not pass on Enos Rakestraw, the Missouri defensive back. I mean, Cooper DeJean, but I don't think Cooper DeJean's going to get there, but I wouldn't pass on him. Most of the guys that I would not pass on are guys that would fall to the Texans at 42. Lots of Texans mock lately are skipping on DTs. You confident passing on DTs in the draft and filling in with remaining vets, undrafted free agents? I mean, they've got a lot of defensive tackles on the team, and they have added a lot of defensive tackles to the equation. Let's pull this up here. So this is the defensive tackle room. I mean, Khalil Davis, Kurt Heinisch, Foley from the Jaguars, Mario Edwards Jr., Tim Settle, McTelvin Agam. Like, you could use some more names here. You could use probably another two options. They only keep 4. So, you know, one of these guys in making the squad, I would think. Or, you know, one of these, you know, a few of these guys aren't making the squad. So, to me, you know, is it a priority? Could you get a guy that maybe checks in with a little bit more juice than Heinisch or Edwards or Settle? I mean, this guy's Foley's making $5 million a year. They're not getting rid of him, I don't think. That's not into a $5 million contract. So He's on the team. I think he's probably the for sure defensive tackle. Khalil, I would say he's back for sure. So I'd lock those two in. And then it's really those four names and maybe a rookie fighting for those other two spots. Well, if you draft a guy in the second round, he's on the team. So there's three spots. So Davis, Foley, the rookie, and then one spot between those other guys. So, I mean, if you pass at 42 on defensive tackle, you can find other guys. Can Cade Stover block it all? Probably not as well as you want him to be honest with you. Saw a mock draft where the Texans take Kool-Aid McKinstry from Alabama, the cornerback. Thoughts on him? I mean, he's one of the 5 best cornerbacks in this draft in most people's eyes. He's recovering well from his surgery, had some offseason surgery. But he's one of the 5 best cornerbacks, 5 or 6 best cornerbacks. So I'd be ecstatic if the Texans got him at 42. Kool-Aid McKinstry at 42 would make me say, oh, yeah. Okay, this is a stupid proclamation by me, but here we go. If the Texans draft Kool-Aid McKinstry, at 42. Okay? The Texans draft him at 42. Not trade up for him, not get him later, 42. The Texans draft him at 42. I'll paint myself red and do a show red. Like the Kool-Aid man. Kool-Aid. Cade Stover can surely block. He used to play linebackers, very physical. Yeah, I wonder if the size is a concern in some of the blocking assignments. He is not going to shy away from any blocking assignments. I'll tell you that much. He's not going to shy away from any blocking assignments if you end up with him. And again, Cade Stover, Ohio State tight end, played with C.J. Stroud, and would be a very fun, addition to the tight end room. Brandon says, worst case if Diggs or Nico don't stay, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Amon-Ra St. Brown, CeeDee Lamb are free agents next year. Yeah, they're set to be free agents. Those guys are not hitting free agency. Every one of those guys will be franchise tagged by their team and then traded if they're not going to stay with their team. Most of all their teams are going to keep them. The Cowboys are keeping CeeDee Lamb. The Lions are keeping Amon-Ra St. Brown. Chase is going to stay on the Bengals. And the reason they didn't pay T. Higgins is so they can keep Jamar Chase. So these guys aren't actually going to hit free agency. Rose, I see you there. I'll get to a couple more comments and I'll get to you. If you want to jump in live, the link at the top of the description, or the link at the top of the chat is the way to go. Vancouver, Washington is by Portland. Okay, so not near Canada. Hello to the Vancouver, Washington person. Wouldn't mind late round inline tight end like Reisman. I believe that's the kid from Illinois or the kid from Michigan. Barner, I think is his name. 6 linemen with those Giants. Yeah, big guys. Big guys. You can do a lot worse than a late round defensive or a late round tight end that can block real well. Rose wants to weigh in. Rose, what do you got for us? Rose going once.
Oh.
Rose, fire away.
What is the best Texan draft pick?
Who's the best Texans draft pick?
Yeah.
Like ever?
Ever.
Oh, best Texans draft pick ever. Rose, I appreciate the question. I can't hear you great, so I'm going to let you go, but I will answer that question. Who's the best Texans draft pick ever? Well, J.J. Watt's up there. Andre Johnson's in the Hall of Fame. Watt probably because it was lucky that they ended up with him. They had a trade to maybe trade up for Patrick Peterson. Rick Smith told this story years after. They had a trade to end up with Patrick Peterson, and it just didn't work out. They wanted Aldon Smith, and they ended up with J.J. Watt. And J.J. Watt's one of the best defensive players to ever play football. So I would say J.J. Watt. Andre's up there. Obviously, C.J. Stroud's going to be an incredible draft pick if this continues. Outside of those guys, Whitney Merciless was a really nice draft pick. Late first-round guy turned into a nice player. DeAndre Hopkins was a really nice draft pick. Late first-round guy, one of the only wide receivers that was pretty successful from that draft class. Owen Daniels was a fourth-round pick. D'Amico Ryans was a second-round pick and was awesome. Defensive Rookie of the Year. So they've had some good draft picks. They've had some bad ones, but they've had some good draft picks. Rose, I appreciate the question. Thank you so much. Can you do a live mock draft? I'll do a live mock draft one day. Sure. Are we switching to a 34 defense? No, they'll be a 4-3 defense, but they'll play 4-2-5 most of the time. Has anyone seen Kenyon Green? Does he look like he's been working out, or is he still fat and soft looking? Former, not the latter. He apparently looks pretty darn good from somebody that I spoke to. You think they will draft Luke McCaffrey? Maybe. He doesn't get great separation, which is something the Texans said they value at wide receiver, but he makes a lot of contested catches, which is something that's a big positive. So it's 6 of one, half a dozen of another. The guy plays well contested, but he doesn't get a lot of, space. You kind of take the good with the bad there. Jeremy says, I think 42 has to be DT or cornerback. I've seen a ton of Green Bay matching those picks at 41. What are your thoughts of jumping back up to get who they want, maybe at 39 or 40? I mean, if it costs just one of those 6-round picks to move up a couple spots, then yeah. Go for it. Would Bucky add value ASAP by 86? Bucky Irving, the running back from Oregon, I believe is who you're talking about, Wes. Small player, success at Oregon, would fit well, and in the running back room, I don't know it would ever be a top running back. Rose asks a little clarifier here, best Texans draft, so overall draft. Well, last year's has got a pretty good shot to turn into the best draft. Still, the best one is 2006. 2006 for the Houston Texans was Mario Williams in the first round, and Mario turned into a really nice player. He's one of the better players from the top of that draft. So Mario Williams in the first round, D'Amico Ryans in the second round, Charles Spencer in the third round, and he was the starting left tackle until Ron Dane ran up behind him and blew his leg out. Eric Winston in the third round. He was the starting right tackle for a long time. Owen Daniels at tight end. He was your fourth rounder. And then David Anderson was your seventh rounder that year. And he played a little slot wide receiver for you at times. So the 2006 draft to me is still the best Texans draft. And you have to chug Kool-Aid. Okay, yes. I will dress like the Kool-Aid man and chug the Kool-Aid if they draft Kool-Aid McKinstry at 42. Rose has one more question. Rose, fire away. One more question here.
All right. So I have one more question. So I want to ask, sorry. So what do you think about the Texans next year's championship? Do you think they'll make it?
So the expectation definitely should be get to the AFC Championship game. That's where they were close last year. They've improved the team. AFC Championship game should be the expectation.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, I do think those. So I think they'll get there.
Rose, that it for you? What else you got?
Nothing else. Thank you for answering, honestly.
No problem. Thanks for jumping in. Good stuff from Rose. Texas Sports Unfiltered, my friend BK. I've never wanted a draft pick to happen so bad in my life. All right, so Kool-Aid McKinstry at 42. Kool-Aid McKinstry at 42. Not 41, not trading up for him, blah, 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 42. Kool-Aid McKinstry at 42. I will chug a glass of Kool-Aid dressed as the Kool-Aid man. And when I say glass, I mean a jug. I'll chug a jug of Kool-Aid dressed as the Kool-Aid man if they get Kool-Aid McKinstry at 42. So there we go. Put that declaration out there. Clip this, save this. If you need to, remind me later. Fun fact, Arian Foster, not drafted, so can't be the best draft pick ever. Tony Baselli, not the best draft pick ever. Darwin says, live mock draft, multiple choice, fans vote on the pick. Okay. I don't hate that. We'll do a couple of those before it's all said and done. Do a couple of those. You think if Sweat falls, Texans take a chance on him. Third round, absolutely. I'd take that swing. Second round, probably not making the investment. You have to smash through the wall, Cody. Yeah, we'll figure out some Kool-Aid-esque things to do if the Texans select Kool-Aid McKinstry. What do you think about Anaya Smith, Texas A&M wide receiver in the 4th round? Maybe a little high for him. 6th round with one of those 6th-round picks would be great. Wouldn't mind that. Ro Bezel says, Edgerrin Cooper at 59, and I'll Photoshop you each day for a month. I'm almost afraid to know what exactly that means. Cooper's a people love Cooper, man. I'm not there yet. I got to do a little bit more thinking and watching and reading. I'm not there yet. Blue wants to weigh in. What's up, Blue?
What's up, Cody?
How you doing?
Man, I'm doing good, man. Over here at work.
Yeah. What you got for me on the work break?
Man, do you think we're drinking too much of the hype Kool-Aid?
No. Why? What do you think we're drinking too much?
Well, I don't know, man. My dad's a Cowboy fan, and he really been in my ear lately. He's like, yeah, y'all got all these free agents. What y'all gonna do with them? And I'm just like, dang, what? Because we've seen it happen before, right? Teams get all these free agents, these high-profile names, and go out and win 6 games, you know? And with that being said, do you think there'll be a sophomore slump with CJ?
No. I'm not worried about CJ Stroud. There are quarterbacks that in the past have had that good year, and then they got a dip. Adding weapons to the offense, the offensive line, hopefully healthy and more consistent, that will help him avoid that sophomore slump.
I agree. And one last thing before I go. I know we've invested a lot in our offensive line. Who do you think is going to be the left guard? You think it's going to be Kenyon?
I think they would like for it to be Kenyon Green. If you made me pick who's going to be the left guard, I would tell you that it's going to be Juice Scruggs and that Patterson is going to start at center. That's just my thought.
I like that. Me personally, I would prefer Juice at center. I feel like that's a more natural position for him. He kind of struggled a little bit at guard, but honestly, I wouldn't mind taking like a guard in like the 6th round, maybe, or hell, even the 7th. I saw we had like 3 7-round picks, you know?
Yeah. 4 picks in the 6th and the 7th round combined. I mean, I did a mock draft the other day. Cooper Beebe, the Kansas State guard, like in the 4th round. Byron Murphy, who to me is the best defensive tackle in this draft, he said the toughest guy he went against in college was Cooper Beebe. And when the number 1 defensive tackle shouts out a guy, it makes me think, okay, this guy's got a little juice to him. And so, it's not the worst. They have options along the offensive line on the interior, though, because like they've got Kenyon Green, Kendrick Green, Jarrett Patterson, and Juice Scruggs. And that's all for, of those guys, 2 of those guys will start, 1 at center, 1 at left guard. It's like they've got options, so it's tough to add a ton of depth to that equation. But you shouldn't ignore it, I wouldn't prioritize it, but you shouldn't ignore it.
Yeah, I wouldn't prioritize it, but I don't know. The only thing that's changed is the running back. And I don't know how. That's the only thing that really concerns me going in the next season is how good will our running game be?
It's got to be
Because it
better.
was glaring. It does.
It's got to be better.
I feel like if it doesn't, the sophomore slump for CJ could be possible.
Maybe a little bit. Blue, I appreciate you, man. I'm going to keep it moving. Thank you. Good stuff from Blue. If you want to jump in like him or Rose, the link's at the top of the chat. Scott says, have you had a chance to look at Brandon Dorless, the defensive line from Oregon? Played defensive tackle and defensive ends at times. If not, who else besides Braden Fisk? Well, you know what, Scott? Since you did the super chat, let's do a little Dorless. Let's do a little Dorless looking right now. So the top of my defensive tackle, rotation or whatever, however you want to say it. The tops for me is that the Texans can actually get Braden Fisk. That to me is where it is Braden Fisk. If Johnny Newton is there, then, give me a little Johnny Newton. I like Mike Hall Jr. from Ohio State. I like Chris Jenkins. Gabe Hall is a nice player. But let's do some looking here at Dorless. He's Dane Brugler's 8th defensive tackle, checking in right behind Braden Fisk. Brugler has him as a 3rd round defensive tackle. Athletic big man who's worked hard to trim his frame, quick first step. Arm overs can create mismatches inside. Some of the weaknesses: high cut with average knee bend and flexibility, lacks hand suddenness while attempting to counter after his initial momentum. 3-year starter at Oregon. Needs to find consistency on a snap-to-snap basis. Okay, so being a part of a defensive tackle rotation would help. But natural power and agility to be a versatile disruptor in the NFL defensive line rotation. Base end can reduce inside on sub packages. 75th overall player, according to Dane Brugler. That's a pretty nice player. It's a pretty nice player. I like Dorless. Is he at the Senior Bowl? I think he was at the Senior Bowl. I think he did. I don't remember him standing out at the Senior Bowl, but yeah, I'm pretty sure he was there. Good question, Scott. Good question. All right, a couple more. Let's see here. Oh, we got some super chats here. I want to make sure I get to that. DeRhino feels way better to be happy and optimistic during the offseason to be depressed waiting to embrace the suck. That's true. DeRhino makes it a good point. It's way better to have fun in the offseason and be exciting than to be kind of okay. All right. As I said the other day, and I'll put Dorless on my list. I'll do a little bit more looking and watching and reading about him. As I said the other day, if you get into the chat or the comment section, you put a name, you want me to take another look at a prospect, or there's a name that you heard or this or that, I'll put them on a list. And I'll do a little bit more research, learn a little bit more about them from that standpoint. So throw them in the comment section after the video is over. A couple housekeeping things. Houston football. That's where you can find my writing. The draft crush list in your inbox tomorrow. If you're a Houston football subscriber, the link's in the description down below. The draft party. Don't miss the draft party on April 27th at Daily Sports Club. Do not miss out on the draft party. We want to see you there. We're going to have a lot of fun at Daily Sports Club for the 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th round. 922 Holman Street, drink specials, and great food. We're going to be hanging out all day. As the draft's on, we're there hanging out with you. Come by, stop by, drop your significant other off shopping. Come hang out with us. Go pick them up, bring them back, all that kind of fun and stuff. We got lots of great stuff planned for you at the draft party. You don't want to miss out on that. So April 27th, the third day of the draft, Daily Sports Club, 922 Holman Street. Parking garage attached to it, street parking as well. Function, can we buy Houston football hats? Not right now, but in the future, you will be able to buy Houston football hats. We're going to get some more. I am out of Houston football hats. I'm out of these. This is the only one I have. This is my hat. This is the last one of these I have. This is the one I wear. I don't think I want to sell you a worn Cody Stoots hat. Okay? But we're going to have some more for you to purchase, certainly. Certainly. So don't fret on that. All right? There we go. Landry Locker's coming your way at 10:30 right here on YouTube. Check him out. And he's going to have some fun stuff. Lots of good stuff coming your way on the YouTube channel. Subscribe if you haven't. Throw me a thumbs up on the video. Appreciate everybody. We end the live streams the same way each and every time. It's my hope to you. This is my charge to you as well. I want you to eat good, sleep good, be good. And I can't wait till we talk Texans again soon. Thanks, everybody.